So we are approaching the patch 2.0 and the anniversary of ZZZ, the first year, right? And well, unless you've been living under a rock, or maybe you don't care at all, you've already heard about the conversation that is been going on these days about HP inflation and power creep. And honestly, me myself, like I said all the other times, I'm not a gacha player. I don't like gachas. I think they're predatory. And what I am is a gamer. I like games, right? And so happens that right now I like ZZZ because it's a fun game for me right now. So I view gacha games like fast food of video games. That they're fun, they're tasty sometimes, they look shiny, but in the long run they're not really healthy for you, right? But entering the gacha space, let's say, all my bias about the gacha community is just comes even more true, and it doesn't look good. First of all, let's go to the reason of how HP inflation and power creep appears on ZZZ. Because believe it or not, this is not the game's problem or the company's problem, like some people wants to push the narrative. But I will touch on that. So ZZZ had many problems and conflicts, right? The TV mode, the lack of content, the game was too easy, Gunner game, etc. And so the devs made some huge changes in the game. And one of those big changes was the decibel system, which impacted the whole game. The game was initially balanced around having only one ultimate shared by the whole team, and soon every character was able to use the ultimate, meaning that the damage output was heavily increased. I mean, by a lot. So the game had to increase the HP in order to provide some challenge. And stop right there, because I know some of you will already jump in the comments and start crying about HP inflation is not being the solution, which I agree, and I will touch on that. So stay with me, please. After the decibels change, you can stun faster with the standard characters, you have more energy recharge thanks to support, and more ways to charge your decibels, because everything contributes to the decibels. That's how the game works, and that contributes to the damage output. And not only that, but this creates another whole problem that is also tied to players feeling behind and the feeling of unfair. Because after the change, you need more resources to upgrade your other skills that you weren't upgrading before. So the cost of building the characters was heavily increased, which means that if you stopped playing, let's say version 1.2, and you just come back in 1.4, almost 4 months later, you will have a lot to catch up. Which, by the way, it seems like it's the case for a lot of people. But let's take the famous HP inflation chart. Let's put some fucking insight on the graphic, because I swear, some of you don't know how to look at the charts. You just look at the number and think, that's it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So let's see the spikes of the chart. When the HP had some significant increase, which was in mid-November, February, and last one in April. What happened in those dates for the HP to spike like that? November, Lighter was released. February, which was the biggest spike, we had the decibels change, Astra, and the disk drive for Astra. Last one, April, Trigger was released. And now I ask you this, what those events have in common? They are really good supports, who increases the damage output of a lot of agents and teams. And well, someone will still say that it's MIHOYO's fault because they release broken characters. They create a problem to sell the solution. And okay, Even though I know some of you are not game designers, I will try to entertain that narrative in other games. What happened when the Ardent Sensor meta was in League of Legends? What happened when Seraphine was released? What happened when Yumi was released? What happened in Overwatch when Brigitte was released? What happened when Kiriko was released? What was the main biggest problem of Marvel Rivals in the beginning? What all those games have in common? Supports and live service games. In every single live service game that is class-based, it's always the supports that affects the game the most, because they tend to interact with every aspect of the game. So no, it's not MIHOYO, it's not Miyabi trying to sell the problem. It's that the game design fault. And it just exists. In a live service game, if you're not up to date to every change, you can't expect a good performance, period. Because the game will change, especially with new supports, and you will need to adapt. And it's okay if you don't want to. But by that point, you have no right to complain saying that the system is unfair if you didn't do your part. Doesn't matter if it's ZZZ, League, even fucking Fall Guys, which is way more casual than ZZZ. Players will get better, content will get harder, and there's nothing you can do to stop that, unless you want a dead game. But I'm not done yet. So let's go back to the argument of HP increase is not the solution. Because they can always add new enemies with harder mechanics to increase the challenge. Okay, let's dive in that argument. Let's say you're playing Lies of P, any Souls games, or really any RPG game. This is a problem from RPG games. You go through the game, you get stronger, and you reach the final boss. But you don't feel the threat, or you feel less threat because you farmed so much, you improved so much, that the fight becomes trivial, and you don't get to experience the final fight the game has to offer. How do we fix that? It's not pretty, but you increase the HP. Every single RPG needs to do this. The harder the boss, the more HP you have to increase, so the player feels accomplished because they evolved, so the game needs to evolve with them. It needs to have a harder content to push back. And the developers expect the player to at least improve by game mechanics or gear. And if the player doesn't want to engage with that, it's not the game developer problem, it's the player problem. Which comes to another big point on this, and that's the mentality of some gacha players. They say, you cannot treat a gacha game like other games. And yes, you can. A gacha game is still a game. Gacha is just the business model. But they have the same principles, designs, and faults of other games. But you know why people want to treat gacha games in other ways? It's because it doesn't fit the narrative. The thing is, people who are addicted to gacha games, they are addicted to the business model, the rewards. They don't like the game. The game is just in the way of the rewards they want. A big example of this is the Battle Tower. The main reason that people don't want to play it is because it doesn't give rewards. It's also because it's repetitive, and in that game mode the HP inflation is really a problem because it's not fun. But I'm 100% sure that the main reason comes to the rewards. That's why it's not popular. So because it doesn't give enough rewards, there's not an incentive to improve in that mode. So people don't complain that much, even though that's the real hard mode. Because for the majority of people who are complaining, they are addicted to the rewards since in their mind, that's the most important way and maybe the only way they can improve the account and get to enjoy the game with the new characters. So of course, even after all those things that I said before, proving that is a common problem in any kind of game, for some people, when the game gets harder and it requires more of the player, they make it as a problem. Because why the fuck are you going to try harder to have the same rewards? And I ask you this, why do people grind in competitive games? Even though your rank is gonna reset after a while, maybe months or next year. Because they are playing the game and not for the rewards. The rewards come after that. A challenger rank icon is just a virtual representation, a virtual medal. And still, I know that some of you will still say that, yeah, but this is a gacha game and you shouldn't grind or try hard to get rewards. Why not? It's like Genshin Impact, when it was launched, it broke the barrier of what it means a gacha game. It's not stagnant, they keep evolving as well, of how the genre they can do better games, because objectively speaking, Genshin Impact was a really good advancement for the gacha space, right? WoW is really good, ZZZ is really good. So why the gacha game shouldn't evolve to something that requires more skill? Why is that? It's because it's a gacha game that it needs to be easier? Like I said, gacha is just the business model. Even League of Legends is starting to be more like a gacha. And I know you don't pull for characters there, but games change, and that's the point of the whole situation. So yeah, if I see someone who don't like to keep their skills in check on a live service game that is constantly evolving, I would suggest to maybe not play a live service game anymore, or maybe start taking some fucking accountability. And I don't mean this only for games, I mean it for life. If a sailor doesn't know how to navigate through the storm, he has two options. He can either wait to the storm to go by, or maybe learn how to fucking sail in the storm. Life moves on. Games a live service moves on, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can only adapt. And what is even crazier is, like, I'm saying all these lessons or philosophical things for a fucking gacha game. It's like, I'm sorry, but some of you are just bitches who like to complain, and you guys are so addicted to the model, the gacha model, that you guys are not seeing the whole picture. Everyone has something to blame. The company because they introduce something that is not fair for players, the content creators because they create drama for their own benefit and make something bigger than it really is, and finally the players who decide to play in the hands of both sides and fight a war that nobody fucking wins. No one wins this. It's like, can't you guys see the pattern? Being honest, this is not exclusive to gacha space, but some more of internet culture nowadays, of picking sides, starting drama and shit for no reason. Rage bait content. Xbox versus PlayStation, Dota versus League of Legends, Call of Duty versus Battlefield, Valorant versus Counter-Strike, Genshin versus WoW, Overwatch versus Marvel Rivals. All the fucking same, all the same bullshit over and over and over and over again. If you guys played Far Cry 3 and you know VAS, like the definition of insanity is repeating over and over and over and over again the same shit, expecting shit to change. You guys are doing that. How you guys cannot see it, I really don't understand. Come on, we've played these games before. It happens in all fucking game. Grow the fuck up. Jesus. And it's funny because every time those things happen, it's like, does it really help the community? Because I don't think it ever did. Eventually, the problem goes on, they fix it, and nobody remembers this. So why the fuck some of you are deciding to engage with this kind of toxicity in the first place? That is nuts to me. It's because it's fun. Like, I get it, but then you want to complain of the situation of gaming or how the community is toxic? You are part of the problem as well. You are a part of the problem. I think I've provided enough evidence of why these things happen. And I really think it's time for some of you stop complaining and do something. It's not your fault that things happen. But in the end, you are the one who have the most impact on your situation. It's like, imagine I'm playing a ranked game of League of Legends, and this happens a lot. And you in any ranked game, and you see someone trolling, right? Because they have a bad day. And they make the game worse for everybody. And instead of me trying to improve my game and doing my best to win, I decide to troll the game as well and make it worse for the rest. It's like, what's the point? Because this is what some of you are doing. Like, good fucking job. I hope you're really proud. Good job. I know I cannot change everyone's mind, but I can change my approach to things. This is being a stoic. It's like, it's a philosophy. And honestly, I think some of you should apply this for your life. For gaming. I don't know, maybe I'm too delusional. Maybe. Who knows? But anyway, enough yapping for me. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like gaming, make sure to subscribe. Give it a like. And if you still want to complain in the comments down below, or maybe make a video to mock the situation, even ignoring everything that I said, I have a really good tip for you. So you can take this, right? This a charger. You can take everything bigger. And then you can shove it right up in